Where are you from? Put your hands up if you've ever been asked this question. Now, keep them up if you've ever had a hard time answering it. This simple inquiry, casually tossed into conversations with the purpose of learning a bit more about someone, is often asked due to mere curiosity. We've all been both the inquirers and respondents. Yet, is it really okay for this question to be normalized? What many of us might not realize is that this question can be quite hard for certain people to answer, especially for those of us whose lives, like rivers, have passed along many countries. Hello, my name is Amaya Valery, and I am a citizen of the world. First of all, let's explore why we pose this question. Do we even need to know where someone is from? Are we asking this to learn about their ancestry, the culture they connect to, the place they grew up in? Or perhaps, is it to categorize them into a manageable box? Or is it in hopes to foster connections, yearning for common grounds? The ambiguity to this question becomes quite apparent, and its various interpretations only make it more complicated. Now, picture the scenario in which a new student has joined your class. Eager to get to know this individual, you walk up to them and try and initiate a conversation. The first two questions instinctively popping up in your mind are, what's your name and where are you from? Names given to us at birth is a pretty straightforward question, whereas the latter, where are you from, may take longer to respond to. As for me, I would be one of the people taking a longer time responding to the second question, where are you from? This is because I've had the opportunity to travel and live in many countries thanks to my parents' work. When I'm asked where are you from, I tend to respond with, I am French. But that doesn't quite answer the question now, does it? I didn't say I am from France. Despite continuously answering this recurring question, I don't solely associate with this nationality. If someone were instead to ask me, where do you feel like you're from, or what culture does your heart belong to, I would stay silent to ponder, as I'm sure many people listening may relate to. The reason why I tend to say that I'm only French is because I've often been met with confusion when trying to explain my nationalities. As a multicultural person with 3 different nationalities, French, Venezuelan, and Swiss, I've already had the dilemma of trying to connect to each one of them. I mean, my parents grew up in completely different places. My father, a French man, lived in France till the age of 21, whereas my mother, who's Venezuelan and Swiss, lived in Venezuela, Switzerland, Italy, and Mexico throughout the course of her childhood. As for me, my early life started in Tokyo, Japan. But at the age of 2, I moved to France, my paternal roots. Then, suddenly, at the age of 8, I moved to Abidjan, Ivory Coast, a beautiful country filled with welcoming people. What I used to find interesting when I lived there is that when I left the city to go to rural areas, some people would approach me with intrigue, asking for photographs, whereas others were cautious of my presence as a white foreigner. Either way, this made me realize that I was different and that I had quite a lot to learn about the world. After that, I moved to Almaty, Kazakhstan at the age of 12. This country is just as beautiful, but with a very different culture and climate to the previous one. And, like some places in Ivory Coast, it wasn't as used to having foreigners reside there. For this reason, I ended up enrolling into the international school system, truly providing me with the opportunity to foster connections with people from various different cultural backgrounds. And, furthermore, I was met with a language barrier, as the spoken languages of Kazakhstan are Kazakh and Russian. Therefore, I ended up learning some Russian at school. After that, at the age of 15, I moved to Turkey. Once again, I had to restart the process of adapting to a new culture, making new friends, and attempting to learn a new language. All this to say that I've lived in countries scattered all around the world. I mean, even my name, Amaya, comes from a different place. It has Spanish/Basque origins. Back when I lived in France, and I tell people that I was born in Tokyo, the answer I'd often receive was, "Okay, stop joking around." Or other times when I said that I had 3 nationalities, I was either met with confusion or with stupefaction. And not that long ago, someone asked me where I lived, and I said, Turkey. They instinctively assumed that I was Turkish, and simply said, "Oh, how great. My daughter has Turkish roommates at university." However, when she realized that I wasn't Turkish, she said, "Oh," and backed away. So, now, considering all of this, if someone were to ask me right now, "Where are you from?" I'd say I connect with every place. I believe humans are like rivers. Our origins flow from the mountains of our heritage, and our path is shaped by the landscapes in which we travel. Despite not connecting to one specific source of water to build us up, the places we traverse make us who we are. And despite not being accepted as a local, each place has their own way of making me feel at home. And I know that I'm definitely not the only person who's encountered this conversation. According to the UNHCR, approximately 1 in 78 people live in a country which is not one of their origin. But then again, this statistic is vague, because who are the UNHCR to define the term origin for the masses? What it means to you may not be what it means to me. For this reason, I decided to interview a diverse range of people to delve into their perspective of cultural identity. One answer that particularly resonated with me is one of a student who said that they do not connect to their culture nor their nationality. When prompted to answer the question, "Where are you from?" they default to the country on their passport, bestowed to them upon birth by their parents. However, when asked the question, "Where do you feel like you're from?" they find a profound disconnect with any nationality. This sense of displacement roots from a nomadic lifestyle spent constantly moving around and not even residing in the place of their origin, as I'm sure that many people may relate to in this international school. And since younger people are more likely to feel this sense of disconnect, I decided to ask adults too the same question to see if their answers varied. The adult that I asked, who lived in 4 different countries across their childhood, provided me with a very similar answer. They don't connect to their nationality. However, when I asked their sibling, an adult too of similar age and who lived in the same countries across their childhood, they said that they have an earnest connection with their nationality and are proud to represent it. They even feel connected to the places that they grew up in as a child. For this reason, I concluded that the sense of belonging doesn't root from whether or not you lived in the place of your origin, but rather on the sense of belonging you find when surrounded by things that remind you of it, or even from the mannerism you have taken from that country. Thus, I believe that instead of feeling a sense of unease as connecting to one specific culture often entices the beholder, one should learn to embrace their multicultural lifestyle and thrive thanks to it. Nonetheless, it is important to remember that a person isn't defined by their cultural identity, but by their own behavior. As humans, we are not the path in which the river flows through, but we are the river itself. After hearing all of this, I would like to ask all of you one last question. Where are you from? Thank you.